Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you for joining us this week. We got a ton of important information and intel to share with you. We're going to get an update on the sketchy situation going on in Kentucky's second largest school district. We're going to get a report back from Sunday, this past weekend celebration of solar energy in Frankfurt. And who should have stopped by, maybe AG Coleman, who's got some confusion on our climate crisis, I think. Then we're going to chat with Russell Allen, the executive director of the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. He's been doing some really important work. In front of them is that other Russell, again, advances problematic elements of his agenda. So a couple of folks with axes to grind, maybe that's not the right word to use right now, about AG Coleman, what he's up to. So excited for that conversation. Should be a great show. So glad that you've joined us. I know there's a lot of internet out there to tune into, and I'm glad you're here with us. But before we get into it, I want to just check in, get a status update. Are you ready to help create a more compassionate Commonwealth? We are sorely in need of some significant political change here in Kentucky. For the next 14 months, we are going to be focused on flipping the Kentucky 6th District and key state house seats that are within that 16-county congressional district. It's a big job. It's going to take volunteers. It's going to take time. It's going to take resources. We need your help to make it happen. Please make a monthly contribution right now via a secure online website. Act Blue to help turn the 6th district purple. $6 a month maybe for the 6th district, or maybe $16 a month for those 16 counties in the 6th district, or just a $600 one time, whatever, if you like the number 6, let's use it there, or whatever you want to do is super useful. But let's go ahead and get into the show. Check in with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, and who's on your biting list right now.
Well, Aaron, I'm Nema, and I am here in the lovely Kenwood area of Lexington on the northeast side of town. And tonight it's lovely. So I really hadn't thought about a biting list today because I've actually had a decent day. But I would say that the people that are always on my biting list, of course, are people who are scabs and union busters and people who say they are pro-worker, but does that really mean pro-union? And that's the question of the day for me. Is pro-worker, pro-union? I think not. Yeah. Who's on your biting list, brother?
It's tough. You look at the news, you see all the stuff that's going on. There's plenty of folks who should be there. I'm going to just say Robert Kennedy Jr. is right now, because the whole Tylenol and autism and vaccines, and it's just ugly. These are folks that should not be running a roadside carnival, let alone the entire U.S. government with all the research and health care and health experts there. They're just ignoring it. He could pick up the phone and say, hey, give me all the best research on acetaminophen and autism. And he would have scientific briefings from the top of the fields, and he would hear, oh, yeah, no, it's bullshit, right? But he won't do that. He's going to let Bobby tell him what's up. And Bobby's quacks. And so, yeah, Bobby is on my biting list right now. He is there's going to be a death toll for this stuff. There absolutely is. And
it's ridiculous. And if I can be completely honest, as a woman who has had a child, I feel like that this is probably one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard in a long time. But what I will say is this, I don't even remember if I took Tylenol or acetaminophen or, whatever else when I was pregnant, because, I was so worried about sushi, Diet Coke, all of these other things, right? And so I'm not real sure. It's a very confusing time a lot of times, and a very stressful time for women. So, I don't even know what. Let me tell you, I just know right now that Tylenol is probably really pissed. And they had that whole thing with the poison back in the 80s for those Gen Xers like me that remember this.
Yep.
I'm sure this is not making them very happy at the executive level.
No, I will be very interested to see what legal actions come out of this.
Oh, yeah, because it's not acetaminophen.
Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about Kentucky politics a little bit. I know there's a lot going on right now. We're going to slide into news of the week because there's been a ton.
There's a lot of things going on, unfortunately, here in Fayette County, the second largest school district, as you had mentioned earlier, here in the lovely Commonwealth of Kentucky. We've had some issues here over the last several months. And the latest developments, if you've not been paying attention at home, is it's basically now just one big hot mess. I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of denials. There's a lot of politicalization of this issue. And let's go into the Kentucky, the latest, I guess. We passed the budget back on Monday, the working budget, which is what will carry us through this fiscal year. And a lot of people are concerned, genuinely concerned, because we're missing some money. And in the grand scheme of the Fayette County Public Schools budget, it's not that great of a percentage, right? So, I mean, it was like you just kind of just missed it just by a little bit, right? So, we can factor in all of the inflation and cost of energy and all of these things. And you can make a claim that, this is by design. But the unfortunate thing that's happened in Fayette is that there's been some sort of, I don't know what the best way to put it. There's been some sort of conflict between what people knew in December of last year going into the working budget, tentative budget, whatever the seasons are. There's about 3 different budget cycles in public schools and marks that they have to meet. And certain deadlines. So, back in last December, there were some questions that were raised by one of the school board members, Amanda Ferguson, which was, is this budget realistic? Because there were some concerns about how the energy costs were budgeted, a huge drop in energy costs. And we know, especially our folks in the 606 know, that energy costs are through the ceiling right now. And so there was some discrepancy there and some questions. And then that really started the questioning of, are we budgeting this correctly, or are our projections okay? And it's really snowballed into a real disaster. If I can be totally honest, Aaron, I've been around Frankfort a while now. And this might be one of the biggest disasters that I have seen in Kentucky politics locally in a while. And I say this because it seems like things would have been so much easier had people in positions to work on the budget or have in positions of power if they had listened to the people directly surrounding them. That's what this is starting to shake out as. We have a whistleblower complaint now with the budget director. We have it's just snowballed into a mess. And what is going on here is this. It's a couple of different things. Let's talk about, first of all, the latest news on this. Sorry, I don't want to get too far off track. The latest news is that Representative Adriel Camuel, a Fayette County school employee, as well as Representatives Ann Gay Donworth, Chad All, Adam Moore, Minority Whip Lindsey Burke, signed a joint statement outlining what they said was the public's lack of faith, as well as calling for a forensic audit of the district. Their colleagues across the aisle concur, sharing a similar, more specific call for action this week as well. 3 GOP state lawmakers have asked Fayette Superintendent Demetrius Liggins and School Board Chairman Tyler Murphy to resign. They did that on Monday. The press releases started Monday morning when Representative Matt Lockett from Nicholasville said Fayette students deserve better. He was joined by Senators Don Douglas, representative from Nicholasville, and Senator Chris McDaniel, which is very interesting. And don't let me forget that point. Chairman of the Senate Appropriations for Revenue Committee, Lockett and Douglas represent parts of Fayette County in the legislature. So let's talk about this, Aaron. Yeah. Let's break this down.
Please.
Yes. So let's break this down. What we have here is a bipartisan outrage. And it even crosses bipartisanship. We're talking DSA. We're talking Green Party, Libertarians. We're talking every basic political affiliation, the ideology. Everyone in Fayette County is currently very upset because this is not good government.
Right.
And this is one of those things. And we have been critical of what's been going on as well in AFT. When I say we, I say AFT, American Federation of Teachers here in Fayette County. We have been critical because we have been concerned about what happens to our Title I schools. We always know that when there's changes in staffing or anything else, the schools that are hurt the most are our Title I schools. And those are the schools that receive extra federal funding because of, poverty rates or all kinds of different factors. These are our most marginalized students. These are our kids that need the most support financially and with staffing in buildings. And so our first concern is our Title I schools. What will happen if there are cuts? What will happen to those resources and availability of staff, extra staff to handle some of the issues that our kids see in the community? That was our first concern. The next concern that AFT has and still has is that we have been asking these questions since December. And it seems like there has been almost a shutting out of information from people that have been asking these questions in the community, us included. The Herald Leader has struggled to get open records requests. The news media, the local TV stations have had trouble getting. So it's almost like one of those things where now people in Fayette, me included, don't know who we can trust, what we can trust. Can we trust any of the data that we've been given from Fayette County? What is going on? And what's really interesting about this, Aaron, was like I said earlier, is this has become your party doesn't matter issue here in Fayette County as much as people want to make it matter, Aaron. When Matt Lockett released that, I saw comments on Reddit that people were like, oh, those Republicans, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you, when the Democrats came out and pretty much called for the forensic audit, which is what the community has been asking for example, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth here in the Bluegrass area, folks like Progress Kentucky, a lot of grassroots groups and traditional groups that speak out on issues have been asking for accountability. And here's the thing. It's not because we're not pro-public education. Obviously. It is because we have been given a gift in Kentucky, a gift that no other state has, and that has been trust in public education. We saw that through the Amendment 2, though.
Mm-hmm.
If we do not cherish and do everything we can to improve our public schools so people won't be talking about vouchers and charters in the future, then we're doing a disservice to our communities and our kids, period. And here's the other thing. You can't love public education so much that you refuse to see the gaping issues with rank and file staff, the issues of working conditions, the issues of low pay for paras, low pay for our cafeteria folks, the benefits now that are through the roof. Health insurance benefits are skyrocketing as far as like you're out of pocket. Your premium might be the same, but your benefits are dwindling.
Yeah.
And so those are the issues. And so what is happening is we have been given a gift. We have to operate above board. And more importantly, as public education advocates, we have to hold ourselves accountable here. We have to look at our school districts and say, this is not okay. Because we use the same argument, Aaron, when we fought charter schools and we said they don't have any accountability.
Yep, exactly. I mean, but I guess that's the question. Watching this all go down, and I was really glad to see, the 5, Democrats we know very well.
It was a shock. I was shocked, yeah.
But then to be joined by the 3 Republicans and basically saying the same thing. If the Republicans went a little bit further in their kind of call for accountability, right? They wanted scalps. But I think that is the next step, right? There has to be accountability. Where's the forensic audit? Where's the money gone? Who has misspent it? Clearly off budget, some really shady stuff that's been happening. We need to get to the bottom of it. Like you, I'm a parent. I got kids, a kid in that school, in these schools. And it's really important that money goes to what it's supposed to go to, which is the education and educators, the staff, where that money go. Right. And I think they've already surfaced some, dubious spending, right? Extravagant expenses in terms of going to Australia for some conference. I really don't know how much really does it cost $7,000 to get to Australia. I guess maybe. I haven't bought a plane ticket to Australia. I certainly haven't bought one recently, and I haven't bought one, with a 2-day advance notice or whatever the heck it was. So it seems like there are some real questions about how the money was spent, where it went, and how did they lose such an enormous amount of money?
Well, I think that's the thing. And as people start ramping, because this is going to keep going. It's just going to keep going until the adults in the room say, okay, can we all just sit down here and let's figure out what's going on? We've not seen that happening. Okay. No. We've just not. And it's very frustrating to see that happen. But I will say this. I will say that I do believe that coming through this, Fayette County will be stronger when it comes to public education. I believe that if we get this right, but it's critical that we get this right. And when I say get it right, that means don't buy into the rhetoric of this is a Republican attack. This is because we haven't had money. Because listen, all those things are true, but it's also true that we have overspent the last 2 or 3 years, that we've had to dip into our contingency, and that has not been relayed to the Board of Education, which is required under policy, statute, procedure. So we can go through all of these things. We can finger point. We can say it's this problem, it's that problem, it's these people just want to do this. But ultimately, Aaron, we have to look back at what we know to be true. And what we know to be true is for the last several years, we have overspent in Fayette County, and we have not cut back and not replaced the contingency fund. It's scary times in Fayette. It's scary times in public education. It's scary times across the board. But here's the thing. If we can handle our business in Fayette, if Fayette can say this is not acceptable, my hope and my prayer is, if we can take ownership of this, is that it will not damage the funding that is critically needed in the rest of our counties that touch Fayette County, my home county of Letcher County, places like Greenup County, who have done what they needed to do, still managed to give raises for their staff, still come in under budget. We cannot let this deter us from pre-K for all and raising the SEEK formula. Fayette County does not make a lot of money off SEEK. We all know this. We can do this if we put down the partisan bullshit and really look at the issue at hand and start making our public schools what people want charter schools to be, which is all of these great things. Fayette County does an amazing job with programs. Our kids are doing amazing things every single day. Our teachers, our parents, everybody is working their butts off. But the thing is that we have to understand that we don't have free reign, even though we want Amendment 2.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can all stay focused on what's important here, which is building the best school district in the state, we can do this. So it's a mess. We just ask everybody to hold the line
Yeah.
You know, a forensic audit is needed. And here's why. It's going to be political if not.
Yeah.
You're going to hear, well, Allison Ball is a Republican, so of course she's going harder, or this, or this, or this. No. Let's do the forensic audit. It's painful as it might be. Open it up. Let's see. Let's see what we have so we can rebuild trust again in our public schools in Fayette County.
Yeah. And there's right now, I think there's a petition that's going around that should, focus on, that forensic audit. So we'll find that. We'll put it in the chat so people can sign that. But, there's other ways to get involved. A lot of people have been coming to these board meetings, right? What's the, what is there another one coming up? What's the kind of timeline on that? Do you know?
Well, we've been having a lot of special call meetings because a lot of stuff is moving really quickly here, and timelines set by KDE and the state for budget information. We would encourage anybody, and this means in any county, not just Fayette, go to a school board meeting, see how they're conducted, see how they are ran, see if it meets your standard of what good government should be. This is the most basic level that we have in democracy, is our school boards. Community is your school district. It is that they're intertwined, and the community wants desperately to believe in the public school systems. I'm not saying the teachers, I'm saying the system as a whole. We can do this, Aaron. We just have to get over ourselves. And I find myself saying this a lot. We just have to get over ourselves. And we've got to stop, as Democrats in particular, we've got to stop assuming that everything is an affront and a personal attack on something whenever we know it not to be true. Yeah. And even though we've been sucked of all this money and all this cash, right? And we've been starved in public education, we knew it was coming. These are things that are not a surprise, and we can continue on, but we can't do it without our community, and we've lost our community here in Fayette County.
Well, I did want to just note, we put in the chat, there is a change.org petition. It's not about the forensic audit. It's actually looking to get Demetrius Liggins to resign. So that's what that
about. There is, but if you go to the Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, they are asking members for three things. Number one is a forensic audit. Number two is to talk about a CBA. And I want to clarify some stuff. Can you give me a couple minutes grace here?
Because I can give you a minute grace.
Okay, let's do 1 minute. Okay. I want to be very clear about what the call for a CBA is. A collective bargaining agreement means that rank and file staff bargain directly with school board members. Okay? They don't bargain with district administrators. They bargain with the school board members. School board members then have a direct line to board members on their concerns. Now, this is not dilly-dallying with everyday operations like some would have you think, which is not on the board's purview, This is about circumventing any funny business that might be going on. What it does is, and it gives the board a direct line to understand what's going on the ground that's not been filtered by 4 layers of administrators. That is what a CBA does. It also will allow us to open the books, the budget, and do a complete and total cleanse of what is needed in our classrooms and what is not. And it will let us see a bigger picture of how we can best funnel our funds to the very direct place they need to be, which is in our classrooms. It also gives our community a voice and a seat, because what we listen to as AFT is we listen to our community and we take the concerns. Example, the McKinney-Vento issue that we had back in the spring, which was a cut of a position that helps our unhoused families. So there are things that we can put in a collective bargaining agreement that protects our most marginalized kids and families. These are things they do in Chicago. At the Chicago Teachers Union is leading the way in community support, community involvement amongst the unions, amongst their union, AFT, and that is who we are modeling ourselves after. This is also a request to let staff decide. We are not asking anyone to select AFT because we're God's favorite, because we're special, and because we're smarter. We are asking the Board of Education to open up the process for people to vote on union yes or union no, and who that union is. It is democratic, it is rank and file, and it is a solution, not all of the solution, but a potential solution to stopping this budget mess from happening again.
I mean, it seems very well timed. Your call for a CBA. The same time, they're just clearly have not been transparent about the books. Clearly, are messing up in terms of their accountability and their transparency and their ability to just deliver in the good faith that most taxpayers expect out of these types of entities. So yeah, good stuff. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective on it. I know you've been in the trenches for quite a bit around this fight. Seems like it's not going away. And yeah, we can find the KFTC call to action.
Yes, please.
I'll put that in there.
And come to a board meeting, see what's going on at the most basic level. Yeah.
So we're gonna transition now to our next story, which is about it actually is kind of a narrative arc we've been building. So if you remember way back, we had Bill McKibben on the show, and we were talking about solar energy and this kind of solar revolution that is happening right now with his book, Here Comes the Sun. Kind of challenged us to get active and to do one of the Sun Day of actions that his organization was organizing. So we did. We picked up that challenge and we ran with it, worked very closely with our friends with the Kentucky Conservation Committee and the Kentucky Solar Energy Society, and then had a great event this weekend out in Frankfort at the the Franklin County Extension Office, which has just an enormous solar array on the top of that building, which powers the building. They got a Tesla power wall. There's a battery backup, so kind of collecting that solar energy if it's not being used by the building. They charge up the batteries, and then anything beyond that goes back to the grid to reduce their energy costs. Really exciting and a really smart setup that works really well, and they're set up to be actually kind of a shelter. So if power goes out in that community, people can come to that ag extension office and get heat. If it's in the winter, they can put their medicine in the refrigerator if it needs to be refrigerated, and in the summer they can get AC if it's too hot or that kind of thing. So it's a really cool setup. Really glad to partner with them. We had a bunch of folks come out with other cool things. A solar powered Winnebago, which I used to charge up my cell phone because it was down to 6%. Stuck it in the Winnebago, which was powered by the sun, plugged in the USB there. And by the time we finished up with our programs, it was back to, 85%. So really, exciting to not have to use fossil fuels. And the reason that matters in Kentucky, especially, is because we're the third worst state in terms of coal or power from coal. So the third highest percentage in the country in terms of how much of our grid is coming from coal-fired power plants, and that's something we want to see more solar. We know that the cost of climate change is real, even though our friend and yours, Attorney General Russell Coleman, does not seem to believe it's real. So this is a story that is related. He signed on, actually was the lead author of a letter of a bunch of Republican attorneys general. They sent a letter siding with the EPA and supporting a Trump administration move to rescind a finding that lets the federal government, the EPA, regulate greenhouse gas emissions, which are driving climate change. So they basically push back on the idea that carbon, dioxide threatens public health and public welfare, and that is just bonkers to me. This is it's kind of like back to the vaccine thing. They're like, we actually don't believe it because, the oil companies tell us not to believe it and the coal companies tell us not to believe it. And there's some horribly, just biased research that says that it shows that climate change isn't real and isn't being caused by, fossil fuel emissions. So it's just outrageous. And it's really, it's insulting. People thought Russell Coleman was maybe just a straight shooter, wasn't going to be an enormous partisan hack, but turns out he's just a huge partisan hack. Or, a failed climate scientist. I don't know. But why would an AG, ignore the massive body of research that actual experts have accumulated that show that climate change is real and that it is burning greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide from human activities, that is driving the warming of the Earth's climate. It's really disturbing that he's, trying to put himself in the middle of this, but that's where we are right now. It's a coal state. And even though the coal industry is not worth nearly what it once was in terms of jobs, in terms of economic activity, they have a huge political legacy. And Russell Coleman is clearly bowing to that, which I think is just disappointing, right? So that's something that's happening right now. The comment period on the EPA's endangerment finding regulation rollback just closed earlier this week. We shall see kind of what happens, but there will be lawsuits. It won't be an immediate thing, but it's it just shows that this administration is taking us backwards in terms of science, and there's going to be a real cost to that. We've seen the cost of extreme weather in Kentucky, floods and storms, and it really is just we should be doing what we can to minimize this, not to just embrace more of it, right? I don't know. Nema, any thoughts about our climate change efforts and what we're trying to do to do more solar here in the great state of Kentucky?
Well, I'll tell you, Aaron, I've learned a lot by co-hosting this show with you guys every so often. And a lot of it has, I come from coal. I'm a coal miner's daughter, and I understand the complicated relationship that we have with coal and the hard facts and the hard truths. And, to me, I'm a little disappointed in Russell Coleman on this as well. We just saw devastating floods in Wattsburg, my home county, and other counties 2 years ago. It literally is no longer economically smart for you to live in Eastern Kentucky. And I say that, and it breaks my heart. But, the lowland doesn't belong to the coal companies. The highland does. And the floodplains belong to the regular folk. And you can't get insurance. Your local tax rate's going to go up. There's all kinds of things that they're screaming. They don't want you there anymore. And it's very, very sad to me. And so to hear and to really learn more about climate change and the effect, because listen, we see it, like you said, you can't deny it, right? But it's very, very hard because in Kentucky, coal is culture. It's not just a job. It is culture. It is literally who you are if you are from coal country. And it's a very difficult thing. And to continue to tell folks that this is a viable option and it's not doing any harm is a lie. And I hate to say it, it's the truth. And we can do better for Eastern Kentucky, and we should. And Russell, it was really a shame to see Russell Coleman jump on this. I'm not surprised. It's big points to laugh at the liberals and our climate change propaganda. But it's not going to be funny whenever I've got family that have never flooded in Pike County who flooded. Their basement completely flooded. And it's not okay anymore. I hope that my folks back in the 606 start pushing back on this and really start to understand that really and truly the coal country is not ours. It's always been coal barons. And it's a sad thing to wake up to.
The friends of coal license plates you see around town. There's so many people like yourself, Nema, just a generation removed from it. People aren't friends of these. What our political leaders are doing. They're not friends of coal miners. They're friends of the Joe Crafts of the world, right? They're more than happy to take the political contributions and do their political bidding, and that's what Russell Coleman is doing right now. And that's as he said, it's disappointing, if not surprising. So speaking of Russell, we got some folks who are also a little disappointed with Russell Coleman, I think. And now we've got a Russell to tell us about it. Right. So we're really excited to get to our guest today, Russell Allen with the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. Russell, I think, is also a Lexingtonian. He's somebody who, who I met through our work with the Kentucky Common Ground Action. Great network of great progressive groups doing important work throughout the state. But things have been heating up with the death penalty in Kentucky. So we thought we would turn to Russell to tell us a little bit about what's happening and how folks can get involved. So Russell, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem, y'all. Thanks you for having me. I've seen y'all show kind of grow and seen like all the great Kentuckians that were on there. I'm like, this is a cool show. And then so I'm glad to finally actually be on here and talk about the issues.
Awesome. And so you're coming to us from the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. It's not where you started. You've been around, you've done some cool stuff. Tell us a little bit about kind of how, where else people might know your name or your face.
I always hate when people say that, but I've been organizing in some kind of capacity for about 10 years now. The initial thing that I did was a thing with my friend, best friend, DeBron Thomas, called Take Back Cheapside, where we kind of banded together and we were able to get some Confederate monuments removed from the downtown square in Lexington, October 17th of 2018. I believe, or 2017. It's starting to run together as the years go on. But that was kind of my first foray into organizing. I was just a regular Kentuckian. I was actually working at a call center at the time and kind of going back and forth from Frankfurt, not to organize, but to make a living. So since then, I kind of bounced around, also did some union organizing, SEIU 32BJ, and then kind of stumbled into the work with the death penalty around 2021, and I've been here ever since, just working on the issue.
Nice. So tell us a little bit, Russell, the status of the death penalty and why it's something we should be concerned about. I know that it's something that, not every state has it. I know that, kind of nationwide, the Trump administration's been, more supportive of it. But, what's the general problem with it?
Yeah, so if you talk about the death penalty in like a real general sense, it's based in kind of the racial terror lynchings of the Reconstruction era. So I think a lot of people know the things that happened during those times, and one of the ways that the system tried to calm down the kind of the hotbed of extrajudicial lynchings was to fold that into the system in the form of the death penalty. So you see a lot of the things, if you go back in history, a lot of the crimes that men were being accused of committing during those times are some of the same crimes that have like a large propensity to get you the death penalty to this day. So when you talk about the death penalty in general, it's racist, it's archaic. We here at KCADP, we have like our kind of slogan is redemption in life and dignity in death. And we wanted to acknowledge that folks on death row, some folks have committed like very heinous crimes, but we believe that there's a chance for everybody to kind of to make up for what they've done and give some restitution, whatever level that may be. And we believe the death penalty just doesn't give folks a chance to do that. And then, of course, with the dignity in death, you can look up the last 6 to 10 stories of executions and just see some of the most heinous things happening to humans, missed veins, multiple attempts, and just the psychological effects even of being on death row. So I could spend the next 20 minutes talking about how bad it is from a general sense. It's just something that a civilized nation like we claim to be in the United States should not even be thinking about at this point.
Yeah, no, it seems like again, like you said, archaic and not something that, an advanced nation should be doing. But what's the status of the death penalty here in Kentucky?
So that's my favorite kind of like pitch thing I like to do. Like the first thing I like to do, tell people is there is a death penalty in Kentucky. So it is still on the books in Kentucky. But some of the things about Kentucky's death penalty are very interesting. In like the modern times, and they count that as like 1976 when they made some changes on the death penalty. We've only had 3 executions in Kentucky, and the last execution, which was on November the 21st of 2008, we haven't had one in almost 17 years, was a man by the name of Marco Chapman. He actually volunteered to be executed. So we have not had a execution since then, and we have not had a death sentence since 2014. So that's over 10 years, almost 11 years. So while we have it on the books, not to be silly, the execution of execution is dormant. And a lot of the things that we use execution to do are to scare people, to force people into pleading into larger sentences that they may not otherwise have been wanting to do. I mean, when you put the prospect of being on death row over top of someone's head, even with the numbers that I stated, no one wants to be the person to break that streak. So that's kind of where the death penalty is in Kentucky. And when we get to Russell Coleman, and we like to call him Bad Russell, and I'm Good Russell. So
yeah, you don't want confusing folks, like
no, we really don't. And every time I hear Russell, I do still a little small wince. But yeah, when we come in and we talk about like what's happening right now with the death penalty is since Russell Coleman came into office, one of his main planks that he said that he wanted to have is to bring executions back to Kentucky. So any avenue that is available to him right now, he has been trying to utilize in order to make that happen.
Yeah. And so you just had a kind of call to action. You're getting supporters out this week. There was a hearing in Frankfurt. What was that about, and how'd that go?
So the hearing is about one of the ways that Russell Coleman is trying to bring executions back. Executions, another kind of piece of this, executions are kind of held back from happening in Kentucky due to a 2011 injunction by Judge Philip Shepard in the Franklin Circuit Court. And it's around a lethal injection and intellectual disability. So this particular subsection 501 KAR 16310, which is when we get in our beep boop robot mode, it just refers to the medical actions that have to happen before an execution. So the Kentucky Department of Corrections is trying to make changes to those regulations in order to bring them in compliance in hope that they can, break down that injunction and bring executions back. So it gets really esoteric. It gets really detailed. And we have a public comment guide that kind of breaks down everything about that. But folks came out and spoke to some of the glaring holes in the regulation. A lot of what is being done is like some coloring outside of the lines in hopes to bring that in compliance. And folks just really talked about what we're leaving on the table. Like a big thing that I want people to think about is when it comes to intellectual disability, we want to be as careful as possible. A story that really kind of pulls on my heartstrings is a man by the name of Benjamin Cole. He was executed in Oklahoma, and like I said, the crime that he was accused of doing is a very heinous crime. But Benjamin Cole did not know he was being executed, and he's not the only person. That was just when I first started in the work, the case that kind of was like the first case that really hit me. He did not know that he was being executed at the time, and he was said to have had like a paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis that was corroborated by multiple doctors. But in the end, Oklahoma brought in another doctor who had a diagnosis that went against that, and they brought the execution forward. When we're talking about this, first of all, KCADP believes that in abolition completely and fully. We should not have the death penalty, and the 24 people that are currently on Kentucky's death row should have their sentences commuted. And we're hoping that Andy Beshear will do that before he leaves office, which is another thing we're working on. But other than that, when we talk about this particular issue and what's going on, we want to make sure that we're as careful as possible on those intellectual disability claims, because when we talk about the death penalty, another thing that's bad about it is it's a poor people's kind of punishment. You see people with intellectual disabilities, abuse, low income, all of those things factor into who is going to get the death penalty. So that's kind of my like rambling spiel about it. But we want folks from now until September 30th, they can still get involved, and we want folks to get involved and submit letters as well.
Nice. So we've got the comment letter guide that folks can look through there, and then there's an action they can actually submit their letter themselves. I did it earlier. It's really easy to do, and it's absolutely something that shouldn't take you too long. But read through the comment guide for the back, kind of the background information, and then use that second link to go ahead and submit your letter. But yeah, Nema, any questions or thoughts you want to share with Russell?
I just lost you for some unknown reason. I don't know why. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. No, first of all, thank you for your work, Russell. I know it's hard. I know that, starting out, you're like saying, hey, I worked in a call center. So appreciate your work. Appreciate you being on the front line. I was just curious because one of the things that's, I think, very difficult for people in rural Kentucky, growing up, to not understand the racial undertones of the death penalty and how it affects folks that we might not see every day, but are true Kentuckians. And so I'm very curious about what kind of resistance or any kind of feedback that you're getting from Eastern Kentucky. I have a very high profile case that came from my hometown. Benny Ray Hodges is the name. And it forever changed my community in 1984, and with the death of Tammy Acker. And it literally changed the way that I grew up in the mountains, because we didn't lock our doors. We all knew Dr. Acker. We all knew Tammy. We all knew these things. And so I'm curious as to those conversations that you have in communities that may not have as many of minority population, or any of our, folks of color or anything like that. What are you seeing? Is there a shift in the mentality? Because I will say it is very difficult for me to look at what happened to Tammy Acker and the Acker family and not understand why people should go have the death penalty levied on them. So, but I understand. I mean, I get it, right? But there are people, I'm sure, that still run into that. You run into that in your talks. Can you talk about that just a little bit? What are some of the things you're hearing in more of our rural areas?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. In Kentucky, actually, we do have, out of the 24 on the road right now, 3 of those folks are Black. It's like a 12 or 13% situation. So it is, quote unquote, disproportionate. And that you see that all across America. So that's just a fact. And we like to, when we talk about stuff like that, we want to be rooted in the facts. Like, facts are usually hard to talk about. But if we can get over that fact, then we can get to the next facts, which is actually in Kentucky. Interestingly enough, like the places that are pursuing the death penalty the most and trying to pursue death sentences are not where you would see the like the Lexingtons or the Louisvilles, or the places where it would have, where the history and the racialization of the death penalty would rear its head. You're actually seeing those death sentences be pursued in rural areas. So, like I mentioned before, it's a punishment for Black people that passed on through slavery and Reconstruction and Jim Crow, but also it is a poor people's punishment as well. And we see that happening. So we just try, with the information that we can share. Yeah, just with the information we can share, we try to let folks know like what's happening on the ground in Kentucky. And that's what's helping bring it home for folks.
No, and that just nailed it. I mean, it's a poor people issue. And I think that is one of the things that we forget. In the rural, there's not a whole lot that really separates us. When you're poor, you're poor. When you're seen as poor, you're poor. When you have no power, so absolutely. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Keep it up, brother. If you need anything from us in the American Federation of Teachers here in Fayette County, let me know.
Awesome. Russell, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the work you're doing. And again, we've got until September 30th to get comments on the record to help push back against what bad Russell is trying to do. And, I think we can actually absolutely help get the word out about that and get our folks to go ahead and click through and send those messages. Any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
Like outside of the death penalty, I think like a lot of people are dealing with a whole bunch of things. And I just want folks to know, like, that when you're going through this type of period of time, or when you're going through that type of hard work, that it is important, and that you are doing good, even though you may not see where it's heading just yet. So I learned that from Take Back Cheapside. We didn't know specifically. We fought for about 1.5 years before we figured out we would have a chance to even get the statues to come down, and we found that out in an instant, literally right after Charlottesville. So, like, I always tell people to just keep plowing away. You never know how close you are to the breakthrough, and they're counting on us to in all facets to stop. So don't stop.
Don't stop. Whatever the issue is you're focused on, you're fighting on, whether it's fighting against this administration, whether it's, you got a state level issue, you got a local issue like Nema's working on right now. Keep going. Yeah, keep hope alive, right? And you never know when, the tide's going to turn. But yeah, thanks for that, Russell. That's super helpful, because it does. I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of stuff right now, and not very much of it's good. So good to keep that in mind. Thank you. Awesome. And
thanks, Russell. Appreciate it.
Let's bring you back, because I want to get into the weeds on how we get Andy Bashir to commute those sentences, huh?
Yes. If anybody is his friend, let's bring him in. Let's hug him in, and we'll get it done.
We're all his friends, right? Everyone loves Andy. Andy loves everyone.
We're all Andy's friends.
Not Russell. Not bad Russell. All right. Thanks again. Have a great week.
Russell.
All right. So we got a couple call to actions I want to call out. There's the one that's in the chat right now, which is send that email for Russell and the Kentucky Coalition to abolish the death penalty. But there's another one that's coming. We've talked about it a couple of times, but this Saturday coming up, join us online at the Forward Kentucky Summit, convened by Bruce Maples. Annabelle and I will be helping host the online event. We got 18 speakers, 3 tracks, citizen activists, candidates, campaign workers, something for everyone who wants to level up their efforts to change the Kentucky political landscape. I know if you watch this show, if you're here with us at this point in this show, we know you want to change the Kentucky political landscape, right? So this is a great way. You don't have to pay much. It's going to pay what you want, and I think Bruce has done a great job. We had him on to talk about it, and share what's on the agenda. But yeah, it's Saturday, September 28th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I know it's a long time online, but I think there'll be some kind of community vibes there for sure. So please do consider joining us. And there's a link which you can register at. So I'll be there. Annabelle will be there. I know some other Progress Kentucky supporters and board members will be there. And you should be there too. Unless you got plans.
Unless you got things to do.
Unless you got things to do.
Right.
It's Saturday. We all have things. Sometimes we have things we can do.
Maybe
we might do them later. Maybe get them Sunday. Do them on Sunday. I don't know. And actually, Bruce made this point, and I want to repeat it. When you pay and you do the thing, the videos will be available for like an entire month, right? So you don't have to spend all day on your computer watching the back-to-back things. You can pick the ones you want to watch later and watch them at your leisure.
Oh, that's cool. Right.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right. I like that. I'll be visiting colleges. I will not be.
Oh, that's exciting and terrifying.
Not for me, for my kid. Yeah.
Well, no.
Do you do the close, or do you want to do it, brother?
If you do the close, I
will be happy to do that. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Common Ground Kentucky Action, and are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Please join us next week. Is that going to be our 230th episode?
What? That's crazy.
I don't, that's just ridiculous. Production of episode 229 was by Ellen Mueller. Did I get that right? Or is it Mueller? Sorry. Thanks, Ellen. Nate Orshan wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening now. Aaron, we did it, and I came in just under the wire, and we've wrapped it up within 5 minutes from end time. So don't be sweating me anymore. Don't be sweating me anymore.
I tell you, pros. All these amateurs are pros. I don't care.
That's right.
We are all volunteer, but we're bringing a pro level. Is what I'm telling you.
That's right. Yes. So that's it. That's all I got for tonight. It's raining here in Lexington on the north side. So hopefully we'll get some good breast, and the tomatoes will keep coming in. That's all I got. We got our music. What are we doing?